Hello, me Chris and my good friend Matt.
Macho.
So now what we got to do, right, is we got to forget that's there and talk normally and naturally.
Okay.
So maybe if we go like that and stare at each other's eyes lovingly.
Quite right, yeah.
So, what did you want to talk about?
I just thought we'll go into what is God and whether there is a possible perception that can be had or whether it's imperceivable.
I think what most people, what I would call God, if you're going to make it a distinction between what God is and what God is not, which is always kind of false, I would say God is a kind of context within which everything is. And also at the same time, he is the stuff within the context.
So, although we're in this reality, in this human form, do you think it's possible to perceive the energy that is God?
Yeah, I think it's
But
always
the true
perceived.
energy.
Yeah, I think it's always perceived. There is no true energy or false energy. There is just energy.
But aren't we limited to our 5 senses or 6 senses
Um,
in terms of our perception?
yeah, so we can't experience the whole range of what God can be, but what we can experience is a certain specific range of what God can be. So God's this infinite kind of thing, and all there is God, and this body has only got the capacity to experience light of a certain frequency range, and it's got a capacity to hear sound of a certain frequency range. But all because it's got a limited capacity to experience doesn't mean that what it does experience is false, and what it doesn't experience is true. It's rather that it's just like it's like taking a snapshot of something, and so we always see in bits. But then there is that from which we see from. You know that there is you can see that you can experience yourself as just here in this body. But in order for me to be here in this body, there needs to be an outside of my body for it to be there. And so God is both the inside and the outside. He is what I'm aware of and what I'm not aware of. And because God is whole and non-dual and unified and kind of one, then I am, and he's infinite as well. He's infinitely me and infinitely you and
Same
infinitely
consciousness.
this.
Same consciousness, yeah.
And if you compare our two consciousnesses, right, currently, the only difference, say if we don't think any thoughts, and we just compare the difference between your awareness and my awareness at the moment, it just consists in a different perspective. And the difference is defined by our location, right? So you're seeing this perspective from there, and I'm seeing it from here. But it's the same. You know, it's just different angles on that thing. And then if we introduce thoughts, there may be certain memories you've had in the past which will make you kind of give a different interpretation to this scenario, which will be a different kind of thought structure you create out of this. And I might create a different thought structure out of my memories. But if this awareness had the same experiences as your awareness, then it would construct the same interpretations as your awareness does. And then there might even be a genetic difference as well. These bodies are different. You've got different hair colour to me, different eye colour, a different height.
Environmental factors as well.
Environmental factors, that's what I was talking about before, the different experiences which make you there. And then there'll be different genetics. And in a sense you could say it's like a bit like different horses for different courses. So God's manifesting himself in all these different things, because it's really a whole big celebration of just look at me.
It's like all the different consciousnesses is just meeting each other again and realising we're all the same and we're all here for the same thing.
And even that realising we're all here for the same, it's not, you get to that, right, and then it's like you're silent for a bit and it's like let's just go and play in it. It's like most people, the way they talk about it, it's like God's giving you this gift, and enlightenment is kind of, or salvation or whatever you want to call it, it's like, oh wow, I've got this gift. And then instead of moving beyond that to enjoying the gift, they're constantly there like, I got this gift, I got this gift, I got this gift. I won't open it up yet though.
Or are they trying to figure it out without actually applying it, rather than implementing it?
I'll say the implementation, once you see the truth, the implementation occurs kind of slowly and easily. It just kind of dissolves or kind of permeates through you in a slow manner. And if you're trying to implement it, you're trying to force the process, and then that's where you get a lot of stiltedness and stuff like that. But even stiltedness is part of it. It's all fine. It's all divine. There is no divinity over here and profane over there. It's all divine. But the mind keeps trying to say, "Oh, I've got to do something." The mind's like, you tell the mind that there's nothing to do. You don't have to do anything. I mean, like in our situation, I've just finished work. At work, I have to do stuff. But when I finish work, I don't have to do anything. So kind of like, what am I meant to do then? And most people, because they're not being told what to do, because they're not being forced to do things, they sit and waste away.
I think it's all about just bringing different energies of God to this plane of existence that haven't been here for a while, and it's much needed sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's a big awakening going on. I think the world's currently reaching a crisis point, and and enlightenment and salvation are normally on the individual scale are normally associated with crises, with deep turmoil. And the world as a whole is going through that. I mean, the wealth divide between the 1% and the rest of them, and the levels of poverty, and how close we are, how many warning signs there are that we're reaching destruction, like the loss of bees and stuff like that. And so this creative, spontaneous, free force is expressing itself in that manner now, because we've got to find a solution to the problems that are here. So. Or rather, we, us individuals and humanity as a whole wants to find a solution to the problems that are here, and so there's more room for that spontaneous freedom going on. It's a bit like in an ant colony, right? In an ant colony, no individual ant has a global awareness of what's going on in the ant colony. Each individual ant's just going along following pheromone trails and stuff like that, just doing what it wants. And yet, miraculously, they create food lines where they go out and find food and they bring food back to the colony. They create graveyards where they take the dead out of the colony and put them outside. They create waste dumps, like tips, where they put all the waste and stuff away. And then they produce new offspring. No single ant is there being the overseer and planning it all, yet this organisation occurs. And within the ant colony, you see, like when you look at the food lines going along, you will see the majority of the ants are following the pheromone trail, and there's a small proportion of them that aren't. They're just wandering around aimlessly, kind of thing. And what those ants are doing, the aberrants, is they're finding it's because of them that the colony can solve problems. So when an obstacle is put in front of the food line, where the pheromone trail goes on, the ants that just follow the pheromone trail, they stop dead and they don't try and go round. But the ants that are aberrants, that are just wandering around aimlessly, they're the ones that find a new route around. And so when obstacles occur, the amount of ants that aren't following a pheromone trail increase until they find a way around the obstacle trail.
So what we've got now is we're all on the anthill, but most of us don't know who we're serving and for what anthill we're on even. So we're just going around aimlessly, self-serving, and...
Well, we're not serving there's nobody to serve.
No?
No, there's just kind of stuff happening, and life wants to continue. So it's got mechanisms and devices in it to maintain that flow. There's nobody to serve. I mean, and then say if like people talk about God as this being that you've got to serve and you've got to devote yourself to, but you only need to serve somebody if they lack something. You only do something for somebody if they can't do it for themselves. And so they think that they're worshipping God. They think they're putting God on this high pedestal, but really they're demeaning God. And because God's so powerful and he doesn't care what happens.
He lets it happen, yeah.
Yeah. Because he's got nothing to lose. He's got nothing to gain. And neither have we at the end of the day. All kinds of forms of suffering that go on, in reality, they're just an exterior occurrence that comes and it goes. And then we see it coming and we see it going. And we get hypnotised by it, like a chicken. If you draw a chalk line in front of a chicken, the chicken will stare at it and it will go along. and we become hypnotised by the temporal objective reality, and we don't turn our gaze around and see that which is
television, you
looking.
mean?
A bit like the television and stuff like that. But I mean, in danger of making it into a moral kind of thing, whereas morality is just, it's more, morality is kind of shallow. There is the truth is beyond good and evil. God is beyond good and evil. Because if you say God's good, and then how do you account for the evil? And then you have the more demeaning image of what God is. And God's meant to be a kind of word that encapsulates the highest that we can think. And so if you can come up with a thought, and the word, and you can think of something, and you want that thought to be God, and you can think of something greater, then that isn't God.
Quick damage.
In a sense, right, God is speaking to himself here. He's schizophrenic. Yeah, he's talking through me to you, and you're saying something, and in a sense I'm pushing it down, and it's like God's making these claims, and then God's refuting these claims.
Just for the fun of it.
Yeah, for the sheer hell of it. Like the music, when you're doing the drums, I mean, it says, unless you become as a small child, you shall in no wise enter the kingdom of heaven. And people miss the point because they're looking for a point. And then when you're playing the drums, you get into it. We're not trying to do something. We're not trying to get anywhere when we're banging the drum. When we're listening to music, we're just listening to music.
I just think we're robots.
Yeah, pretty much this body, this body-mind
Robots.
organism is a robot. Yeah, I would agree.
Robots to God.
Yeah, that God's programmed and controlled.
A bit like Matrix.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Matrix is awesome film for like showing enlightenment and stuff like that. Yeah, shall I stop it there?